Can y'all? Let's see. Mic check. Can y'all hear me? Everybody good? All right. What up, though? It is about 5 o'clock, so I'm gonna try to be brief with it. I know we're somewhat a little bit tired. I am Nicholas Gordon. People call me Nick G. And today I'm gonna be talking about utilizing SwiftCharts to visualize your data. But before we get into that, I want to thank both Mac and Jessica for this wonderful opportunity. Approaching September, I'll be about 2 years into the tech world, so I'm still very new. I try to attend as many developer conferences as I can. This is my first time speaking at one, so I'm super excited. So far, it's been a blast just learning and hearing stories from many different developers here, and hopefully after my presentation, y'all learn something a little bit more. And so just a little backstory about me. I was born and raised on the east side of Detroit, went to Persian High, and when I was going to graduate, I took the ACT, and then the highest I ever got on there was a 17, so that kind of narrowed my options by quite a bit. And so I ended up going to Baker College of Flint. I went there for mechanical engineering. I eventually hated that field because I only really did it to please my grandparents, and they say, okay, let's try to do engineering. But one of the cool things was when I went to college and I got a tutor, I realized that I wasn't smart enough. I just didn't know my learning style. And so I'm a very visual person. And so once I realized that I'm very visual, it really made everything easy in regards to learning. And so I ended up graduating after 5 years with a 3.5 in mechanical engineering. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. Graduated in 2020, and that's when COVID hit. And so during that time, it was super hard to get a job. And so I kind of got a job as an underwriter, and during that time I did some self-reflection, and I said, okay, I hate this field, I want to get into tech, I like computers. And so the question was how do I get into tech without spending a lot of money or going back to school? And eventually I heard about the Apple Developer Academy, which Marcus kind of told about y'all earlier. So I won't explain too much about it, but it's a great program, completely free. Went through the program, learned about the iOS ecosystem, ended up publishing 2 apps into the App Store. And so one on the App Store currently is called Random Adventure. All it really does is you type in the city, you pick a topic where there's food, entertainment, bar, or park, and it finds you one random thing to do. Usually when I travel, I'm very undecisive, so that really helped me figure out what I need to do in that city of my choice. And so kind of working now as a mentor there, so they offer me full-time employment. And so I really I look at it a way as giving back to my community, because there's a lot of Black and brown developers that come to the academy, and just really helping them unlock their learning style so they can learn how to code and make pretty cool projects and products. In addition to what Marcus said earlier, both me and him and then some other developers are teaming up to make a studio to help build products in the Metro Detroit area. So feel free to connect with us. And so let's get into SwiftCharts. So what is SwiftCharts? So it's a framework, it's an iOS native framework for making customizable charts. Once we get into the coding demo here, you're gonna see that it provides marks, scales, and legends as building blocks, and it was released during DC 2022, and it's for iOS 16 and up. So if you want to build it for anything like iOS 15 and below, you have to use the older charts framework. I really like this new SwiftCharts framework because it's going to be really easy to implement, as we see here. So since I'm a very visual learner, I love charts. So why should we care about SwiftCharts? When I look at a lot of data, it's hard for me to figure out what's going on, what's the trend there. And so charts help me understand data through visualization. And so from there you can spot trends. So if it's an upward trend or downward trend, you can easily see that with a bar chart or a line graph, right? And then from there, it helps make the data comparable so you can make informed decisions. So some of the apps that I use is my fitness app, where it uses a line graph to track my macros or weight. I use a lot of budget apps. And then one more app I use is, what is it? It's my fitness app, so it tracks my steps. So I use those charts and it let me know if I'm doing good or bad, and help me make informed decisions for the next day. And so kind of the architect that we're doing here is we're going to be working a lot inside the realm of the app space. If this was a production app, I'll probably use some type of external database or API. But for now, everything is inside my application. And so from there, we're gonna make some type of model to model our data. And then we're gonna pass it into some type of class or manager to hold all our methods and arrays, and that's gonna get passed into our views. And so inside the view here is where we're gonna use a lot of SwiftCharts. It's a very visual component, so y'all wanna see that here very soon. And so let's see how that works. So by a show of hands, how many people here kind of budget? A little bit? I wish I budget, I'm not good at it. So I'm gonna use SwiftCharts today to kind of build like a very small like chart to show my spending habits here. And so I don't expect people to follow along, but you know, my GitHub is public, so if you want to try SwiftCharts on your own time, I'll list out the steps here with some resources. And so some prior knowledge and installation is that you need Xcode 15 or newer, and that can be found on the App Store on the Mac, and just some basic knowledge of Swift and SwiftUI. And so let's see if this is a little bit bigger. So it's gonna be 3 things we want to accomplish today. So as a millennial myself, you know, I want to see how much I spend. I'd like to see a breakdown of my spending and see which category I spent the most money at. So we're gonna work on those 3 tasks today. And this is kind of our expected outcome. So we're gonna be making a bar graph and a donut chart, all right? And so let's kind of see how that looks. So in here, we're gonna be working inside our Xcode project. That looks good. And so for step 1, let's see. So I did the tedious part for us already, and I made us a model for our expenses. So I'm just gonna copy this code on over and paste it in there. So right up here, I'm just gonna paste that code. And kind of what this code is doing is, let's see. So right here we have our expense totals. So eventually we wanna add up each expense into like some type of category, and that's gonna be our total. Right here is each individual expense. So each one has a name, category, amount, date created, and color. For the sake of this demo, we have an enum that holds food, entertainment, bill, and utility. So those are different categories I'm gonna break my expenses into. And then I had to make an extension on date. So by default, when you make a date in Swift, it goes by seconds. And for me to make an expense for like 2 months ago, I had to like figure out how many seconds that is times the day times the month, right? That's too much I have. So this extension, all I have to do is enter in the year, month, and day. That's gonna make it super easy. So now if I go back to my GitHub, we're gonna go down to step 2 here again, and we're gonna import our observable class that's gonna manage our expenses. So right below all this chunk and code, I'm just gonna paste this right here. And if I were to make this into a production app, of course I'm breaking it to different files, and for the sake of demo, just gonna keep it all in one file. And so kind of what this is doing is I have an imputed property that's gonna eventually figure out our most expense and give us the name and amount for that. I have an array, right, totals. Then here I made a whole bunch of fake data, so I was like, I think this week I was like, what type of data can I use to like edit my expenses? So this is kind of like a rough outline. Like if y'all see my real transactions, it's a lot worse than this. But you know, electricity is like 50, I think 70 for internet. My phone bill is like 100 a month, so I've got that there. I wish rent was 800 a month, but that's just a wish to make it. I go to all these buttons and that's like 30 a month or 30 a week. And I go to eat a lot. And so working downtown, let's say, you know, let's start because there's so many each other's kind of restaurants. So I'm sitting about lunch. That adds up quite a bit. I got all my lunch in there. Gotta have my Netflix. I love me some Stars and Disney Plus, so those add up. Although this is highly underestimated model of my expenses. Like the actual transactions are a lot worse, but we're just gonna roll with it. So to go back to my Git, let's see. Engage your site. So now we're gonna get started. So got rid of this tedious part, so we're just gonna display these expenses as some type of freeze.
So just gonna bring this over it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is bring my budget manager indicator, and you just bumping a variable budget manager. And then for people that are unfamiliar with Swift, all this observable macro is going to say any type of changes we make inside this class is going to make the screen without refresh. So it kind of caches that data. And so to activate this, I just got to go to the top and port representation here. Like so. Now, if I were to paste my folder down here and spin, we should get some data. So this is kind of like my expenses right here, but I really don't know what that means. I just think I'm spending money left and right. So now we're going to use some type of chart to see how that looks visually. And so with SwiftCharts, you get incorporated in 3 easy steps. And so step 1 is we're going to link the charts for anywhere. And that gives us access to the components and functions to make our chart. So that's step 1. Step 2 is within our view, we get that a chart component, like so. Then we have to specify what type of data we want to loop through. And so I'm just going to say loop through C, all of our expenses, and then for each individual expense. Now, that's step 2. So we imported charts. So what type of data we want to loop through? Because I will just say, what type of graph we want to export. So for the first one, I want to do a bar graph, but it's still that's plotting my arc. It'll be one by my pass it at X and Y. We don't just hear that it accepts a plottable point. So kind of what that means is we have to do this value thing with a label and a key. So the label is a localized string, which means it supports different languages. So I'm just going to say for the X is our breakdown to keep track of our getting. More expense added. And to do all expenses here, all focus. Then create it. Then our Y. It currently did out. So we want to see how much we spent on that particular day. And so now, by default, SwiftCharts is intuitive, based on that data that is looking through to create some type of starting point for your ASOI. But we can do a lot to customize this chart. So one of the modifiers I want to show you is you can change the background of our chart. So you can do something as extreme as like a red here, if this will look hideous. So I kind of go with like usually a gray here with a khaki 0.2. And all this really comes down to us when you're designers, like what best fit things are to show that data. One thing that I probably would do here is this. If you want to say, if you want to change the tick parts technically, then you can do a foreground style, like you can change the tick parts, whatever makes sense. You can also pass in the conditions. So if I say anything over 400 particular mark red, then you probably do something like that was the about greater than 400. If it is, make it red. Otherwise, keep it blue. Then for force plus things, they kind of see like which expenses are open at limit. If we want to add some type of horizontal line, you can add another chart or another part component inside the chart. That's called a goal mark. That's basically a lot. So if you want the user to know like a threshold where they should probably stop spending it, right? It's probably over here. Then want them to go on the Y that just takes a value. And here is probably be our limit. That can say anything over 400. it's gonna make a horizontal line. But if I were to push it out like this, the user don't know what that line means, right? So you probably should probably give them like an annotation so the user knows that what that line is doing. So you can add an annotation on there. So we do an annotation. It would say probably like a limit or 100. And you probably don't see it this first time, but you can add some parameters in here to specify how you're going to name the bid. But we can say multi-position to be on the top. Then I think the alignment will be a see how that looks. So I probably want this alignment to be on the right side. So let's make it trailing. So not the best look. So I'll probably have this on the bottom. And once again, this kind of comes down to your design decisions. Like, how do you want to show this data to the user? So I put lines that don't have to much about it, but just know that annotation is there so you can position things correct. And for people that's unfamiliar with slope, so the leading and trailing just being in the US, like we read from left to right. So leading is the first, trailing is the last. So I forget, like different countries, their leading will be like right to left. So that's kind of what they're just going. So I'm going to adapt to that. If we wanted to add a legend to our line map, you get back up this foreground style modifier. Then you can probably do a foreground style by.
And then from here, if we want to separate this stuff by the category, and then we do expense dot category our value. And so it kind of color codes it, and then it gives us this little legend at the bottom. So we see here that utilities is marked blue, the bill is green, food is orange, et cetera, et cetera. So you kind of have like a legend for you, for the user. And if you didn't want this x-axis here, like if we didn't care about the months and just the amount, you can add a modifier to your chart to get rid of the x-axis, and then you can make this hidden. And just like that, it gets rid of those months tick. So maybe the user only care about how much they're spending. They don't care like what, they don't really care about when they spent it, just how much and what it is that they spent. So you can do it that way. Let's see. And that also applies to the y-axis, but for the sake of this, I feel like the user care about how much they spent, so we don't want to get rid of that. We probably want to keep that there. And so one thing that we can do is, let's try to add a pie graph, right? Let's see. So we're gonna make let's see if we can make a button here. Would a button be the best way? Let's see, probably not. We're gonna do it right below. So let's do another chart component here. And then we're gonna loop through our budget.totals. So now we care about the totals of each one instead of just each individual expense. So we do expense and now for Swift, for a pie graph or a pie chart, it's called a sector mark. So we do a sector mark here, and it takes in an angle. So if we say here's the totals, and then right here is the expense dot percentage total. That's just gonna populate right now, and that's because I have to add in here to run this function to find the monthly total. I never really called this function, so I have to, I believe I have to make an initializer here to call find monthly total. Let's see if this updates. All right, so we got our totals in there, but it's all our blue right now, so that doesn't really help the user. So we need to break that out. So what we're gonna do is within here, we'll just do that foreground style. We're gonna add that legend in there once more. So we probably say total. And then we do the percentage total. Nope. We're gonna break it up by category, not total. So we're gonna do category. And now here, it's a little bit more easier for the user to see like those percentages broken down. So we see here that my bills, which is expected to be a majority of my expenses broken out. You can take it a step further and make this pie graph into a donut chart. And so kind of how we do that is we'll back this out. Then we're gonna add some more parameters to it. So notice here, we have an inner radius, outer radius, and an angular intersect. So we're just gonna click on that. Let's make it look a little bit neater. And so the angle, once again, is gonna be our category. So we care about the category. Our inner radius is gonna take in a ratio, and I believe this is gonna be 0.7. And I think that's the only thing we need. So let's see if this works. Uh-oh. Let's see. I believe, uh-oh, XO, don't yell at me. Let's see. Let's do a ratio of 0.23. Let's break this up by the foreground style, category, expense, category, raw value. All right, so hopefully the Xcode simulator should work. We're crashing. Let's see why we're crashing here. So I might have to rewrite this out, and that's okay. Let's try to put in all the numbers and see what happens. So we got our angle, inner radius, outer radius, and angular intersect. All right, so within here, we want to loop through. Maybe it's the total instead of the categories. I think that's where I messed up at. So I think I have to do the percentage total here. Because that makes sense because the pie chart is 100%, so I want to break it up by the percentages. So I think that's where I messed up at. I think I was trying to break it up by the name rather than like the percent total. And I think that's why it didn't like it. So I think if I back this out one more time, I think that's gonna work. Yeah, there we go. So now we see that it carved out the inner part of the pie chart, and now it's more like a donut. And this is really useful because we could use this space right here to put some text in and make the user know what's going on. And so usually what I like to do is, if you add an overlay right here, oops. So we add an overlay, and then we would just say like put some placeholder right there. So we know eventually when we put some text right here, it's gonna go right here. And so if I go back to my GitHub repository, I put two tips in here. So one is to display numbers with only 2 decimals, and then the second one is to show the most expense highlighted. So I'm gonna copy this one over, and I'm gonna put it right here. And so this most expense is a computer property that's gonna find our most expense and keep it highlighted for us. And so I'm just gonna attach the modifier to right here. And then I think it is backwards, so let's change that around. So I think this will be 1. Let's do 0.1. And so now it's we put more emphasis on the most expense right there. The user can kind of see like the other ones. So I think let's make that 0.2 so they can still see it, but we really put emphasis on that most expense one right there. And so what I would probably do here is add some type of annotation. Not no annotation, let's not do that. We're gonna work inside our overlay here. And I probably will say to the user that your most expense, and let's put this inside a VStack so it can go vertical. And then if we say your most expense is, we string interpolate this, and then we say most budget manager, the most expense at 0. So the most expenses are bills. And then we just say at, then one more time we do budget manager, we look at our most expense, and that gives us the dollar amount. And so we see right here that the user don't care about those extra zeros. So what I probably would do is go back to my other tip here, and then this is to display numbers with only 2 decimal places. So just gonna grab that, come back right here, and the only thing I have to change is instead of expense amount, we're just going to take this line of code right here and put it right there. Then we can get rid of this.
That's good.
All right. So, you know, you can always add, let's see. So we can always add some like, might have first let the user know like, if you want to bold that or make that a little bit bigger, make it stand out like, hey, you're spending too much money, like you probably need to chill out or something. And so that is one way that I would probably use a donut chart to display some critical information for the user. So at quick glance, I know that I'm spending too much there. If we were to, let's say for lunch, I like treated my whole coworkers and we spent 3,000 or something, I don't know. And so this thing should update. Let's see. So now it knows my food is the most expensive at $41.54. So it's very dynamic there. If I go back to my bar chart, it is something that I want to show you guys. So right here, let's see. When we do date created, we can add something called a unit here. And then you can specify like how you want the date to be broken out. So if we do by month, it knows to go by each month. So let me make the x-axis visible here and get rid of this so we can see what's going on. Oops. Let's see what is going on. There we go. So what's kind of happening here is SwiftCharts knows if we're trying to go by month, all the expenses inside the month automatically get added up. So it's intuitive to add up those values for us. And we see here, if we color code it, it stacks them up on top of each other. So that's a huge benefit to like using charts, the charts framework. If we wanted to tell the user like, so if we were to get rid of this and want the user to know like how much each of these expenses are, you could add an annotation on here. And this is probably gonna look hideous because we got so many data points here. So you could make an annotation right here and loop through expense amount. Oh boy. So this is terrible. Let's see. There's no easy way. Will it do month? Let's see. No, okay, that's even worse. But you probably have to, I think in this situation, I'll probably make my date on the y-axis, and then each expense will go like, kind of like up and down. That way I can put the amount on the side so it can show it a little bit better. But we won't worry about it in this demo. But just know it's there. All right, and I think the last thing that I want to show is that we can change this legend position if we need to. So mainly for this one down here. So if I do a modifier on this chart component, I think if we do legend position here, let's see. So if we want this thing on the top, top. Then maybe 2 for spacing. So it's probably, then I probably want to add some, let's see. So add a little bit of padding just to break it up a little bit. Add into the bottom, let's do 20. So now it's kind of like our legend now is on the top for the user for the sector mark. And so now, you know, I kind of got a, you know, I know, so if we go back to our user stories here, the 3 things we want to do is see how much I spend, the breakdown of the spending, and then which category I spent the most money in. And so I got you know, I got like a timeline of my spending. I got a breakdown of it here, and then like inside the middle of my donut chart, I could see which category I spent the most in. So in all, hopefully you guys know a little bit more about SwiftCharts and play around with it. And also you guys looked a little bit into my spending habits. I need to get a lot better at it. I need to save a little bit better and stop spending so much money. Inside my repo at the very bottom, I do have some resources. So this link is to the SwiftCharts official documentation at the Apple website. This one is a 2.5-hour YouTube tutorial. It was literally a movie worth of information, but it goes into depth. Some of the things is that you can do an overlay, so you can use your finger on a gesture to like highlight over each individual bar mark and get more information on there. My good friend Benia, who is in the audience, she is making a wonderful app, a budget expense app, and she's using the API to like track your expenses with your credit card and stuff like that. So I'll definitely be using that to get better at spending that. And then one of my good friends, Linda, she uses SwiftCharts to keep track of her book counts for DPS school. So she's planning on working on that. And then to wrap things up, so my IG handle is Sochilla_Nick. This QR code goes to my LinkedIn. If you want to connect, feel free. And hopefully you guys learned something today, and let's continue to have a great time. Nice. All right, any questions or?
Yes, thank you, Sita.
All right.
So, what is all in the church? How do you see that within?
Animate. It should not be too bad. I would imagine that you probably want to make it like whatever property is at stake. So let's say I had some type of total, right? I probably want to start at 0 and then go up to the amount that it is. And then you probably want to specify some type of duration. So like over maybe 2 seconds, it goes from 0 to that amount. And then you probably would put it like inside of some type of onAppear function. So onAppear, when that chart shows up, it goes from 0 to that amount over that duration. Yep. I was going to do that, but I kind of cut that part. But it's like a quality of life thing for the user if they want to see it. Any other questions?
So how do you remember what steps do you take to like ensure like quality and reliability in Warlock's and so make work out about it?
Oh, you said my quality?
Yeah, like quality in code, reliability in code, like quality of like in it, like you're doing that application for a client, you know, and you're writing code. What steps do you take to make? I guess make sure that it's going to be alive, it's going to work. It's going to work within what was it, but they're not.
Yeah. So kind of what I do is, you know, I kind of map out. So, you know, when I talk to the client, I kind of map out like what they need through like some type of diagram. And then I'm reading this book called Test Driven Development. So like a lot of unit tests to make sure whatever test cases or edge cases that could break the application doesn't break. And that's through like a lot of error handling. So I write like a lot of tests. Definitely will probably put it in like build a prototype, how to user test it, get a lot of feedback in that regards too. But user feedback in addition to unit tests was what I would do to make sure the product 100% works.
And now, like this station, we can you have 2 questions. The first is, you're both sitting around MVP for this project. Are you happy MVP about this project? The second question is, what are the next, what's the future from this MVP?
So for my budget expense, this is definitely, I would not consider it MVP. I would probably, for me, I would break out the files more. I just put everything in one file for the sake of demo. And I would probably add a way for the user to add their expenses. So like when they spend something, they could just log it right there as an MVP. And then probably some quality of life things, like maybe I would probably not put as many charts on the same screen. So maybe the first screen would be like maybe the bar chart, and then they can like tap into like the pie chart or donut chart, right? I don't believe in putting a lot of information on each screen. Like users can get very overloaded if they see multiple charts on the same screen. So if I were to actually like continue this project and build out an MVP, I would definitely break out the screens more and then add that functionality so the user can add their own experience. Yep. Any more questions? All right, sweet. All right, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, so my GitHub repo is NGOR, let's see. So it is my first initial last name. You know you at the right repo if you see this smiling face, and then I have like some things right there, but it's my first initial last name, 6'8".
Yeah, sure.
And then from there, y'all can like check out my other projects and things like that. All right. Anything else? Any other questions? All right. Thank you all once again.
Thank you, Dennis. And the first off, thank you. What is the part that you want the cats?
Appreciate it.
This is